Some stories change history. Some voices echo through time, shaking the very foundation of society. Malcolm X was one of those voices. His journey from a troubled youth to one of the most influential civil rights leaders in American history is not just a story, it's a transformation. Welcome to this in-depth audiobook summary of the autobiography of Malcolm X, a book that captures the raw truth of racial injustice, self-education, and the power of belief. By the end of this listening experience, you'll gain insight into his struggles, his evolution, and his legacy. If you're ready, let's begin. Part 1. The early years. Malcolm Little was born in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, to parents who instilled in him the principles of black pride. But his childhood was anything but stable. His father, a follower of Marcus Garvey, was killed under suspicious circumstances, likely at the hands of white supremacists. The loss shattered his family, pushing his mother into mental illness and the children into the foster system. Malcolm's youth was marked by defiance and survival. He excelled in school, but was discouraged from ambition when a teacher told him that becoming a lawyer was no job for a Negro. This moment planted the first seed of rage, a realization that no matter how intelligent he was, society had already decided his fate. Disillusioned, he drifted into crime, moving to Boston and then Harlem, where he adopted a fast-paced life of gambling, theft, and hustling. These early chapters reveal a theme that will echo throughout Malcolm's life: the systemic oppression that forces many black youth into a cycle of poverty and crime. But his story doesn't end here. It's just the beginning of his transformation. Part 2. Crime and Incarceration. Malcolm's criminal lifestyle led to his arrest at 20 years old. In prison, he was known as Satan for his hostility and refusal to conform. But prison also became the place where his true education began. Through an older inmate, Bimby, Malcolm discovered the power of words and knowledge. He devoured books, copying entire dictionaries to strengthen his vocabulary. More importantly, he was introduced to the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, which preached self-reliance and the idea that the white man was the devil. This period was Malcolm's intellectual rebirth. He realized that true freedom was not just about physical liberation, but also mental empowerment. His anger found direction, and by the time he left prison, Malcolm X was born, a man with a mission. He had transformed from an aimless criminal into a disciplined and driven man, one who saw knowledge as the ultimate tool for liberation. His ability to articulate his thoughts and newfound ideology would soon turn him into one of the most captivating voices of his time. Part 3. The Rise of a Leader. After his release, Malcolm X became a devout follower of Elijah Muhammad and rapidly rose through the ranks of the Nation of Islam. His speeches were electrifying, his presence commanding. He exposed the hypocrisy of white America and the failures of the civil rights movement's nonviolent approach. His charisma attracted thousands, and soon he was the face of the Nation of Islam. But fame came with enemies. The FBI began surveilling him, and tensions grew within the Nation of Islam as he became more popular than his mentor, Elijah Muhammad. Despite the warnings, Malcolm was relentless. He believed in a separate black nation, in self-defense, and in dismantling white supremacy by any means necessary. But change was on the horizon. A crisis would soon shake his faith. His growing influence and refusal to remain silent on issues of injustice made him a polarizing figure, admired by many, but feared by those who sought to maintain the status quo. His rise was meteoric, but so was the turbulence that followed. Part 4. The Break from the Nation of Islam. Malcolm X's unwavering loyalty to Elijah Muhammad was shattered when he discovered his leader's moral failings, including affairs and illegitimate children. Devastated, Malcolm publicly broke from the Nation of Islam. It was the most dangerous move of his life. Now alone, he embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca, where his views on race underwent a radical shift. He saw Muslims of all backgrounds, white and black, united in worship. This experience transformed him. He realized that racism was not inherent in all white people. It was a system that could be dismantled. Returning to America as El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, he preached a new message: unity beyond race, a broader fight for human rights. But this shift also made him a target. His former allies in the Nation of Islam now viewed him as a traitor, while the US government remained wary of his growing influence. Malcolm knew the cost of his evolution, but he refused to back down. His new mission extended beyond black nationalism. It was about justice for all oppressed people. Part 5. Legacy and Assassination. Malcolm X was now a man alone, navigating a storm of enemies. The Nation of Islam saw him as a traitor, the US government saw him as a threat, and even civil rights leaders were cautious of his new ideology. But Malcolm did not slow down. On February 21st, 1965, in the Audiobook ballroom in New York City, Malcolm X was assassinated. He had long suspected it would happen. Yet, even in death, his influence only grew. His autobiography, completed through interviews with journalist Alex Haley, became one of the most powerful accounts of transformation ever written. His story is not just about anger, it's about evolution. From Malcolm Little, the troubled child, to Malcolm X, the radical leader, to El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, the man who saw hope in unity. His journey teaches us the power of knowledge, the danger of blind faith, and the necessity of change. Thank you for listening to this audiobook summary of the autobiography of Malcolm X. If Malcolm's story moved you, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you'd like to explore more powerful stories of transformation, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing forward.